So in this next section of the book, we shift from a focus of gender that's on men and understanding how we've been acting as men to getting the world that women live in, which is what chapter 14 starts with. We look at an exercise called Act Like a Lady box, corresponding to the one we did where Act Like a Man. Only we're looking at the messages women and girls have around what that means. All the focus on beauty, all the focus on prim and proper, be relational, be social, and there's not the messages that are in the man box around fight, be tough, win. And so we construct that, and then as you see in the narrative there, then we start to hold up another third box that says act like a leader, a good leader in your organization. And most folks start to see that there's a lot of pieces from the man box that's important. So, be tough, get results, all that. Sometimes we've added some things from the traditional lady box, be relational, be in integrity. And yet there creates a messaging that somehow all these traits are supposed to be in one gender and not the other. And so the whole looking at the subtleness that can happen from that, what we call a double bind for women, where women can have the same behavior that a man does, and a man will be seen and called as assertive, and she'll be called the B word, or you have sharp elbows. And so that double bind, and that's because of the impact of these boxes where, if she has to take on some of the man traits traditionally, she gets seen as being kicked out of the lady box. And so she's worried about being assertive and being nice, and a man just has to worry about being assertive. So that's some good piece to explore there for us to know, how is that world different, again, for women that they live in. And again, it's changing at times, and there's still plenty of these traditional messages that women for many years have been talking about, that double bind. And so, how much do I really get if you have daughters, and if you have a heterosexual woman as a spouse? How much do you really understand their world and how different it is around the messages they receive? Another way to explore that is, the mindset number 10 in there is about intent versus impact. And that's also a very important concept as a diversity partner is, a lot of times if I offend someone, I'm going to defend my intent, that I had a good intent. And actually, the learning happens when I shift over to explore my impact. And so intent versus impact is how I can take it. Sometime when I bump into somebody, if it's a gender issue, when I offend somebody, how did I just impact you? Can turn a bump into a partnership where I'm actually glad it happened because we've strengthened our partnership. So that's a little side note. Chapter 15 is about exploring male privilege. So we looked earlier at white privilege. What are the things we don't have to navigate being white that people of color do? So there's a similar exploration around what was it like for me as a male, which is an insider group, that outsiders, women, are navigating that I don't have to navigate. And so there's a long list in there. There's even more online that you can Google around male privilege, that we don't have to worry about our safety near as much as most women do, whether we're traveling on business at night, arriving in an airport, then in a new city. Many women would want to arrive in the daytime. I can get lost driving to a place. It's not a huge concern to me in many parts. Some parts of the world it is, some parts of some cities. And so getting that concept that I live in a different world where there's a lot less concern about my safety than many women live in, even in their own homes. And that has a way of understanding some of your spouses better, your daughters. And of course, a lot of men start to realize this when they see their daughters going off to college, and all of a sudden they're concerned, as you should be, because women, over almost 20% of women are raped in the United States. And the instances of workplace harassment are much higher. And a lot of that rape happens in women under 30. So that's, right in that college age. The whole concept is also, we mentioned there, about using privilege honorably. So if I see a woman speak up in a meeting and another man repeats her idea and he gets the credit, I can say, actually, that was Jody's idea. Good job, good idea, Jody. Or How come you guys didn't hear her? What happened? And we need to hear everybody in the room. So when I say that, it's going to be taken differently as when a woman in the room raises that issue, and she can be seen as having a chip on her shoulder. So using privilege honorably, how can I use my insider status as a man to name some of the things going on and intervene amongst my male group, which is the work that needs to happen amongst ourselves instead of it being delegated to women to have to educate us and intervene. A lot of women are exhausted and tired. Sometimes in our allies, mixed race, gender labs, we have them generate statements that start with "I'm tired," and it's pretty eye-opening to hear your executive women colleagues say those things that they're tired of, and similar to men and women of color, I'm tired of regarding race. So again, that's back to not overemphasizing the sameness side of my connection with others who are different, but noticing the difference and really leaning into it. Chapter 16 talks about objectification. And that's a whole nother layer of women's experience in the world, is being objectified for beauty, for their bodies, in a way of scrutiny that men we traditionally don't have. Or we do have it some, but it's not near as much the degree. And, our body shape and size don't impact, sometimes whether people see us as qualified near as much. And that pressure is most shown for women as they reach adolescence. So you're thinking about your daughters, and all of a sudden they become much more conscious. If you look at the Killing Us Softly movie trailer that Gene Kilborn's been putting out versions of, we've been using that in the caucus for many years, and just the trailer is insightful. Also suggest you look up the Dove commercials that are on YouTube, one called Evolution, that shows how the images of women are constructed artificially, which is also about the Killing Us Softly. And then the impact of that you can see in the Dove sketches, which is a 3-minute version or a 6-minute version, and the Choose Beautiful ad by Dove. So those are some places to look to actually show, and I've shown those to my daughters and my significant others, and that's sharing that and sharing it obviously with other men. The book Strong Daughters, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters really opened my eyes. The second chapter, the research all shows about how important the relationship is with for a daughter with their father. And I think one of them says the strongest predictor of a self-esteem for a daughter is their dad's physical affection. And so how are we at that? And I had a woman tell me once, when your daughters become in puberty, don't become scared of them if you end up somehow aroused. And that was confrontive, and now I understand that's pretty challenging. I hear a lot of women that say that my dad kind of abandoned me in that years. And so if you're uncomfortable with some of that change in your daughters, stay connected. So I'm just passing that on. It was a grateful share for me. So objectification is a really helpful thing to understand. And many men, we have been taught, through, all the, explicit magazines of growing up with Playboy or Hustler, and you were showing that or passing around perhaps to feed into that, Beautiful Girls. There's a scene where men rate girls as they walk by on the street, and that the whole male culture that breeds in colleges and fraternities and scoring with women. And we have to look at how we as men are interacting that feeds that objectification of women, and then the cost for that, which you want to recognize before you see your own daughters become the victim of that. Every woman has a father, so you're thinking about, how do we patrol each other as men for creating a culture of safety and respect at work and outside of work. And that it shows up a little differently around the globe, but it's always some layer of issue. I'm just going to mention chapter 17. It's about nurturance and stepping over that sort of boundary that men have, where we don't lean into nurturing each other on a physical level, and that both has to do with gender conditioning, and it has to do with the next section that is about sexual orientation. Notice that wherever you are reading that, and we'll pick up a little bit more on that in the next video.